In the Unresolved Problem segment tonight, Imam Rauf, the Imam of the controversial Ground Zero Mosque, may want to build a mosque in a neighborhood near you. Despite overwhelming opposition to his scheme for Ground Zero, he not only remains committed to building there, but is now talking about doing the same thing in cities across America. With us now is my old friend Walid Phares, the author of the fantastic new book, The Coming Revolution, Struggle for Freedom in the Middle East. I have my copy right here. Walid, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
So now what's going on? You have this book is chock full of history, current news, history, and analysis of what's happening. Dire situation in the Middle East. But let's talk for a minute about this imam. Now, moving from Ground Zero, wildly controversial, applying for 9/11 funds, the developer there, and now moving his project nationally. What's going on here?
Well, look, first of all, the approach of Ground Zero is still the same. It's going to mutate and replicate all over, and there are three options here for such an initiative. To build an Islamic tower very close to the area where thousands of people were killed by a movement claiming a jihadi ideology. You have three options. Number one, you say America is at fault. The American public won't accept that. Number two, you ignore it. We're not going to be talking about it, and that's also not acceptable. Number three, really, you want to come and say that I am building this in the same way when you build a Holocaust memorial, you explain what's the ideology of the enemy. Is he going to do it? I don't think so.
Well, you know, I actually, in a way, I kind of don't blame him because he's a Muslim and he has this particular view and he's trying to proselytize for it. But I think he has to answer these questions and answer them clearly about what his intent is and who the backer is for this. I mean, that's a big project. If it's a national and a global project, that's a pretty big project. Where's the money coming from?
Absolutely. The money issue is the most important probably in our system, especially if it's coming from the petrodollar regimes. The WikiLeaks last week said that most of the money for radicalization is coming from those places.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia and the other Emirates and the other oil-producing regimes. So that's a big question out there now.
Let's talk about what you say in your book about what this administration is doing in the Middle East. First of all, it seems to me that they're in over their head on pretty much every major issue, whether it's with Russia or China. I mean, we can't even get the World Cup to come to the United States at this point. But specifically about the challenges in the Middle East today.
Well, on the one hand, in the book, I show that indeed the jihadists are on the rise in a variety of places, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah. But what we don't see in America, Laura, and you know that very well, is the map of the other side, the suppressed, the oppressed, beginning with the Christian communities of Iraq and Egypt and Sudan and Lebanon, who have been oppressed just a few weeks ago.
Slaughtered during Mass in Baghdad. Slaughtered, and our State Department has been woefully lack of response from the State Department on that. That was one of the most disgusting and heinous acts of hate crime I've ever seen.
That was terrible. I hope Congress will call for answers about this issue, but also Muslim communities who do not go by what the jihadists are saying. For example, Darfur. Where is Darfur? We don't hear about it. These are black Muslim Africans who are harassed and killed by the jihadists, and we don't have an answer for that. The Kurds in northern Iraq, and women, students, and the most important point, Laura, you know that, when 1.5 million Iranians, mostly women, youth, artists, cab drivers, were demonstrating in Tehran, what did we say to them? We'd say we don't meddle.
Well, we saw with the WikiLeaks documents, the administration didn't know how to respond. They didn't understand what was happening in the streets of Iran during that cyber. Everyone was on their texting, Twitter revolution, whatever they were calling it. Just very quickly, now we have this homegrown terrorist issue with the Baltimore military recruitment installation. The guy who was hoping to blow that up. We had the Portland situation. All of these guys, Islamic, all of them saying they're jihadists, and I don't know, we still can't seem to identify what the enemy is here.
We still are under that memo which was issued in the beginning of this administration saying you cannot use words such as jihadism and Islamism. And guess what?
They're using the words.
Exactly, exactly. And they said that in this case they used the word jihad and they found him.
Oh, well, and Muslims have helped report these guys, especially in Portland. Good Muslim Americans have done great work on that. Walid, great to see you as always. Congrats on the book. I am taking it home with me. And up